Hi there. It is the second week in June, and I thought it might be kind of fun to do a uh, garden update. We're going to start with a couple of updates about perennials. Something that I've talked about, I think, in other videos is planning for succession, meaning be intentional when you design a landscape area to have something pretty to look at or blooms throughout various seasons. So a couple of suggestions with regard to that or ideas is make sure you have a few spring bulbs. That will give you early spring color. Other things that can give you early spring color, depending on if it's shaded or unshaded, are things like hellebores and lungwort can give you some color in areas that maybe tend to be a little shadier or have some shade. Hellebores, I think, can also handle some sun. Some other things that, and so for your area, because every area is different, every zone, Google when do things bloom or when do things start to leaf out. Sometimes it's not about having blooms because you can have some things that have variegated colors to their leaves, and I'll show you an example in just a second. But right now, we've got lavender that has been in bloom. The daylilies are starting to come out. So these are the newer, in particular the daylilies are the new color that is coming on this time of year. Things like coreopsis have been blooming for a bit, but you can see there's a lot of seed heads here. So these are actually about ready for a mid-season cutback. Which will encourage them to push out and focus on developing some new blooms for later. We've got some astilbe. Astilbe is one of the plants that I have found wants to be in a more shady area than I have some of it, so it's looking really pretty now. As we get into the hotter part of the summer, this area gets a little more sun than some of these astilbe want, and they're going to look dramatic. But I'm hoping this year that the coreopsis and the daylilies are big enough to give it enough shade that it won't be quite so dramatic. But this is just an example of earlier spring, you can see the greenery is dying back. There was a lot of color here from spring bulbs. Now we've got the early summer, late spring blooms. The lavender has been in bloom for a bit. And then now we've got the daylilies coming on, the lavender still blooming, the astilbe is currently blooming. But then some other ways that you can get color or variety is in the leaf pattern. So, or the color of the leaves. So we have a little collection here of some evergreens that will stay rather small, but you can see they've got some variety of colors. These are a little more in the lemony, light green. This one's a little bit darker. It's a little lighter right now because it's pushing some new growth. And then we have in the background a couple different varieties of lariat, which is essentially kind of a grass, but it will also send up some sweet little flower spikes later in the summer, and so then we'll get a little later summer different kind of look from them. But right now they're just providing a texture and a variety of two different patterns in their leaf color. So, and earlier in the season, these lilacs, which I have, as you can see, given a very hard prune this year, they provided color and greenery. They were very full with greenery, and I got some decent blooms out of them. This is a type of spirea, I think bridal wreath maybe, or snow something, I can't remember, but it had all of the branches were just covered in teeny tiny little white blooms. So those were some shrubs earlier in the spring that provided color, and now the golden privet is providing some bloom and color. It has been providing color through the different colors in its leaves. It's a lighter leaf compared to the lilacs or the other plants that are around, but it's also blooming now. And those bloom clusters look a lot like lilac bloom clusters, and they smell like them too, but they're a creamy color instead of pale purple. So that is an example right here, just in this bed, of doing some things to provide a variety throughout the early spring into summer of pretty things to look at. Let's go take a look and see how the vegetable gardens are doing. Oh, on the way though, the coneflowers are getting ready to bloom. So that is a summer superstar is coneflowers. But in this area, I have mixed in over the last year or two also some yarrow and some coreopsis. And yarrow is blooming, has started blooming a week or two ago. So it is a little bit of an earlier bringing color to this area. And in a little bit, I'll probably cut this back so that I can encourage it to bloom again later in the summer. And at that point, then these coneflowers will really take over. So this is another type of succession of bloom that earlier in the spring we had this, there's actually 3 there, Baptisia plants that were covered in blooms. All those bloom clusters have now started to turn into seed pods. So we had color here originally. Also early spring we had spring bulbs, flowering daffodils, and now this is our summer palette that is really getting ready to rev up. And it's right across from the small vegetable garden. So that helps bring in pollinators close to the garden. And in here you can see the broccoli has pretty much done its thing. I haven't quite cut down these 2 plants yet because I want to see if they give a little bit of shade to this lettuce that I started from seed that is still kind of coming on, and keep that from bolting. But in the meantime, I have planted I tried planting some spinach seeds. I don't think I'm going to get spinach before it's going to be too hot. But I have some green beans that I started from seed here a week or 2 ago. I just planted some more green bean seeds, and I'm going to try, I got some seeds for chickpeas that I'm going to see how much those produce. You can see back in here that the cucumbers along the edges here that I started from seed have germinated and are starting to grow. And the onions here are doing nicely. Some of them are really starting to get thicker stems. So these onions are doing pretty well. The carrots are putting on some size. I've thinned these a couple of times. I might need to thin again. But these are coming along. There's some arugula here that's still, it was starting to flower earlier, I noticed, so I cut that back today. Some different kinds of onions over here. Those are green onions, so they aren't supposed to get as big. These are a type of shallot, but you can see they're thickening up. These are really starting to thicken up over here. This garden, the onions are looking like what I would hope and expect them to. The strawberries are putting out runners. So this is a rebuilding year with strawberries. I'm hopefully going to propagate using the runners several plants and expand the strawberry patch. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it here, maybe in the green stalks. But these guys are looking good. These onions and the carrots were started in March, which is about the time you're supposed to. You're going to see the carrots and the onions in the big garden not looking as mature, and it's because they were started later, but I'm wondering if I'm not going to get as good sized onions and carrots from that garden because of maybe they were started too late. So let's take a walk over there and see what that looks like. Oh, I forgot we have to walk past the potato collection. So let's just pause and take a look. As you can see, the potatoes are looking pretty good. They are looking a little wilty today. I don't think they are loving the humidity and warmer temperatures. I'm not sure if they're getting as much water as they need, so I'm going to give them a real good watering. You can see there's definitely a difference in how the plants look in the green stalks compared to a fabric grow bag. This is much more stressed looking. I think what I'm learning is with these fabric bags, when the plants get this big, I probably need to be watering it twice a day. The lemon tree is looking great. Got lots of new lemons that are working on growing. It's still blooming. I'm not seeing a lot of new leaves, but it's seems to be pretty happy. The key lime tree is all of a sudden pushing lots and lots of new leaves. I don't really see much in the way of fruit production or blooms, but we'll see. Flowers that I started from seed. I've got Linaria is the tall fairy looking stuff, and then there are annual geraniums in here. They're looking good, coming along. And we've got some more potatoes over here, some herbs. So we need to give all of this a good watering, but so far these guys are coming along. Now let's go look at the big garden. Okay, one thing I wanted just to point out, I have very intentionally planted some perennials around this garden that are helpful companions to a vegetable garden. We've got a form of mint in the catmint. So it's a type of mint, yes, but not the mint that goes completely crazy and goes everywhere, although it is a very hardy plant. And then 3 or 4 different kinds of yarrow and some coreopsis. And over here is some calendula. Some of this, the bigger ones, self-seeded from last year. It's actually an annual, but it will tend to seed itself. And then all the little bitty ones are some new seeds that I have put down this year. And it's been about, I think 3 weeks, maybe, since I planted you can see the garlic, by the way. Let's just, go in order here. So we've got garlic here. It's looking good. I am anticipating in another couple weeks, probably, this is going to be ready to harvest. Everything that's hardneck has had its scapes snapped off anywhere from a week or 2 ago. I did pull one that had 2 or 3 leaves that had turned brown and dried up, and wasn't super impressed with it, but I left it out here just for the time being. But the cloves are kind of small, the neck is kind of small, so I don't know if she would have put on any more size, but I left it here just as a comparison. But this is looking like we're getting close. Oh, whoops, I have a basil here that I forgot to plant. I'll have to take care of that. So you can see that the peppers are looking lovely. Lots of the plants are growing peppers already, and for the most part everybody looks pretty healthy and has put on size since these were planted. I can't remember exactly, 3 weeks ago maybe. But this is where onions. So these are onions that should be getting much bigger. These definitely should be much bigger. They are like sweet Spanish or a type of red onion. And they're just not sizing up very well. These are green onions, so they look great size for being green onions. So not sure how the onions in this part are going to go. We had to refill these beds, and we're not able to do that till early April. So anything that should have been planted more like in March was pushed back and seems to not be like these onions and carrots here. They're just not as big as what I would have expected compared to the other garden, but it's because they got planted later. So I'm not sure how we're going to do, but maybe they'll still catch up. But then you can see here we've got some tomato plants that are definitely doing well, have put on size. These are the rest of the peppers. Again, a lot of them have started growing peppers. This guy's gotten much taller. This tomato plant is much bigger. The pea pods, oh, looks like I've got more to harvest, but the pea pod plants are about done, which is normal at this time. As it starts getting hotter and hotter, you can see they're getting stressed. So those will be getting pulled out here soon. Hopefully I can get the pods off of them before they get too big with the peas in there. I don't like the peas, I just like the pods. Got some more garlic over here. This collection of carrots is looking better and fuller. We've got another tomato plant that has more than doubled in size. And then over here you can see that the tomatoes definitely are a lot bigger. I'll come down here and stand at the same angle where I think I took some pictures, and maybe I can put that up as a comparison. So you can see all of the tomato plants are much fuller, much taller. I still have a couple lettuce plants in here. I need to get those cut back. They're probably going to bolt here very soon, but everything's looking pretty good. Today I came out and planted some basil around everything. Oh, this guy looks like we need to snap that off. Oh, so you do not want stems on your tomatoes to be dragging on the ground. That is an invitation for disease. You can see some of these already have a little bit of fungal stress, so you want to snip those off. And branches like this that are hanging down, you don't want that, because if it's hanging down and touching the soil, that makes it a lot easier for these soil-borne issues like blight and fungus to infect. Oh, now you don't want to do that. Do not want to tear it off like that. I should have gotten snippers. I was being impatient. But you don't want stuff dragging on the ground. So anyways, hopefully that guy's going to be okay. And this is the stage with the tomato plants where I will probably have to come out here almost every day for the next few weeks and be doing a little trimming, be doing a little tying, because most of these tomato plants are going to get taller than the stakes that I have them currently staked to. And so as they get closer and closer to that height, I'm going to need to be keeping them fairly well pruned to, mostly one stalk that I can keep attached to these stakes. I may bring in something like some rebar mesh and put between the two rows with some T-stakes as a way of kind of like keeping that back row from falling over onto the front row. We'll see. I'm still toying with how I'm going to do that this year to keep from having a complete tomato jungle again. But anyways, they're looking good. The dill is starting to flower. I'll let some of these go ahead and do that and make dill seed. I have already harvested some dill so that I'll have it when the cucumbers come in so I can make pickles. But everything is so far pretty happy and healthy and coming along. And hopefully soon we will have some things to start eating out of this part of the garden. Thanks for joining me here in Aunt Susan's garden for an early summer garden tour.